Hezbollah believes that its acts, and I think that's a very acceptable argument, that its acts and that its involvement in Syria has actually prevented such explosions from increasing. You know, these explosions would have been higher, much higher in number, if indeed Hezbollah had not intervened, if these takfirs, for example, were able to penetrate into Lebanon and wreak more havoc, especially because we all hear that these groups like the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant and Nusra, we know that their main project or their main plot is to eliminate all other sides, is to establish their own extremist entities and cancelling out all sides, cancelling out, for example, Christians, Shia, Sunnis who don't share their same Wahhabi-oriented beliefs. And so I think, you know, this I think that what this will actually do, it might actually increase Hezbollah's incentives to go in, because, you know, the more Hezbollah goes in and gets rid of such groups, then the more it prevents such attacks like the one which took place here from taking place and being repeated once again. So if indeed that is the goal, to stop Hezbollah or to make it rethink its strategies, I think, you know, that is a very clear illusion.
And let's talk about the Lebanese government here, Ali. You know, in the past we've seen when a Salafi preacher, I believe, had been involved in violence in a city, the Lebanese army got very heavily involved there and controlled the situation. Should we expect to see more of the Lebanese army out on the streets trying to protect the country now?
That is a possible assumption, yes. I think that is one very, very possible assumption, especially because you have here a street. This street which we're standing in is called Embassy Street. You do have the Iranian embassy, yes, but you have other embassies very close by. About 1 kilometer away we have the Kuwaiti embassy. We have, for example, the African embassies. If I'm not mistaken, the embassy of Ivory Coast is very close by. And so this puts the whole area in danger. And when it's about diplomatic corps or diplomatic headquarters or buildings, then the state does have to take responsibility. The state must take responsibility. So the fact that it's taken place here, I think, increases the motives and does indeed call for stern measures being taken by the state, because we have a lot of diplomatic buildings here, a lot of diplomats who even live here. We have, many diplomats who have also lived here at a close proximity to their own embassies. And so I do presume, yes, that the state will have to take stern measures, and there will have to be a very large deployment or a significant deployment of the Lebanese army.
Right, so then, Ali, speaking about the Lebanese army, is that at least an entity which Lebanese people agree upon and support then in such cases?
That is the one entity which the Lebanese still agree upon, yes, and that's why it's important for the Lebanese army to deploy here. Also, I think people here would be very cooperative with such measures, because, as I said, most of the people here have no experience or have never seen anything like this before. Once again, I repeat, they've never been to Dahiya. They've never seen with their own eyes what they've just seen right now. Many of them immigrants, many of them also, you know, very wealthy people as well, who used to live outside Lebanon, came back to settle in this country. And so the fact that they haven't seen this before, I think, would make them more receptive to cooperating more and more with the Lebanese army, to being more cooperative, to, you know, accepting any measures as long as the situation is safe, as long as the situation is under control. So this is something, I think, which will not pose a big problem. But however, one thing I must say, if indeed what I said proves to be true, the fact that, you know, the security measures in Dahiya prevented those responsible from carrying out the attacks in Dahiya, and hence they resorted to this area because maybe the measures weren't as expansive and they were able to perform such an attack here. If then the measures are put in place here, security measures put in place here, then they might look for other areas, which hence leads me to the conclusion that the Lebanese state, I think, must put in place measures all across Lebanon, because, you know, it's not no longer isolated to one specific area. Wherever these people can carry out attacks, they will carry out attacks. And this calls for, I believe, a comprehensive security plan which covers all over Lebanon to prevent these attacks from being repeated.
Okay, I just want to take a moment out and remind our viewers of what we're seeing. And if you're just joining us, we are getting breaking news that at least 15 people at this point have been killed after 2 rockets have hit the Lebanese capital Beirut's area of Al-Janah, which is in the south of that city. The death toll is expected to rise, as it has been. Several people have also been injured. So far, there has been no claim of responsibility. As Ali was saying, the target may or may not have been the Iranian embassy, though the Iranian embassy itself has said that all of its personnel are at this time safe. As Ali was also saying, this is situated on a road called Embassy Road, so that there are a lot of diplomatic missions in that area as well. Again, that is the latest from what we're getting so far right now from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Now, Ali, we've been seeing a lot of flurry of activity behind you. We've seen the army come and go. We've seen ambulances come and go. Do we know if any of the officials are going to be showing up at this time, as they did in previous explosions as well?
If I understood your question correctly, I haven't seen any officials, actually any ministers, although I would presume that ministers should arrive here, particularly as this was close to a diplomatic mission. Now, I was here with you, so these people or some ministers might have gone in. That is a possibility. I can't confirm, if some ministers or officials from the cabinet did go into the embassy behind me or did visit the area. This is something normal. It will take place. There will be denunciation. They will condemn it. But I think one thing which must be underscored is the issue of Syria and controlling the borders. We have, and this is something as well which I forgot to mention, the area of Arsal, which is just across from Qalamun. In recent days, we have had a huge entry of Syrian refugees from across the border into Lebanon. They sought refuge, or they took refuge in Arsal, which is considered to be a pro-Syrian opposition area. Hundreds of thousands actually fled. Many of those families, or the refugees, or not many of them, I should say at least some of them, are indeed affiliated with Al-Nusra. They come in under the cover of refugees, and then they take refuge in Arsal. This has greatly increased in the last few days. And so this is also something which could be related, the penetration, the entry of these groups, the increased entry of these Syrians might have caused this. And so the Lebanese state, what should it do? How should it deal with the situation in Arsal, which has become a home for these groups? What can it do? Well, what measures should the state do to confront these groups, to prevent Arsal from continuing to be a safe haven? I think once again the pressures will increase. The pressures will increase on the state to do something to tackle the situation, because the more harboring, or the more environment, the pro-environment for these groups, the more a suitable environment is provided for these groups, then the more Lebanon will be vulnerable to such attacks and such explosions.
So then are you saying, Ali, that in a sense Lebanon might try to tighten or even seal off its borders?
Well, I think that, such measures should be taken. I'm not sure if we can say seal off or not, but there must be some action taken. Particularly, as I said, Arsal, which is a very big area, an area which is March 14, where people, members of Al-Nusra and other extremist groups, they use it as a transit point to go to and from Syria. And, indeed, this does contribute to destabilizing the country. When you have Al-Qaeda affiliates traveling freely into this area and being given a refuge there, that does contribute, and it does call for the Lebanese state to do something. Now, is it sealing borders? Is it increasing Lebanese army presence, border guards presence? I don't know what the measures could be, but something must be done, because up until now, it is dealing lightly with the situation. People are free, or these extremists are free to go to and from Arsal, and this is something which is contributing to destabilizing the situation.